Morning, everybody. So I'll just skip through, in the few minutes that we've got available, a few slides just outlining what BT Wholesale is doing in this space and some thoughts that I hope we're going to discuss later on the panel. So firstly, why BT Wholesale? So BT Wholesale has changed a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, and now positioned, I think, quite uniquely in the market as a bridge between the media and telecoms communities. So just looking at the sort of 4 key things we're now doing, our legacy has come from the broadband market, as most people will recognise, where we still command the largest share of broadband service, more than 8 million lines, and quite uniquely, we reach 99% of UK homes and businesses. Over on the left, in fact, the 2 pieces on the left and the right, we bought into BT Wholesale back in 2009, and this has been part of creating a converged service business. So our media and broadcast business is a well-established broadcast services operation. It delivers in the order of 16,000 hours of TV content a day, and to put that in context, that's about 50 times more than the entire BBC output. So it's a huge operation on a global scale. Also within that operation, we carry out a lot of content processing, encoding and storage activity for a wide range of customers, and specifically for BT Vision, which is one of the largest VOD catalogues in the market. So that's giving us if you like, a set of back-end scale content services capabilities. Over on the right, perhaps a lesser-known operation that we have now in BT Wholesale is our Agile Media business. Agile Media are the market leader in participation media, so that's every time you place a vote on X Factor or Britain's Got Talent, the chances are it's being all managed by our Agile Media business. We actually announced on Tuesday this week that we've integrated Agile Media with Facebook, so from now on you'll be able to do all your interaction, voting and so on of your favourite talent reality and charity events through your Facebook page. And then last but not least is our Content Connect initiative, which we kicked off in 2008, which is the creation of a next generation content delivery capability. Now I'll just spend a few minutes talking about that because I think that's the key link here into the rest of the presentation, but perhaps more pertinently the rest of the discussion this morning. So I think it's interesting to observe that of all the TV hours viewed by households in the UK, only about 3% of hours viewed is from online services. The remaining 97% of the hours we view in our home are either from broadcast or watching a DVD or Blu-ray or watching Time Shift on our PVR. So it is early days in the online media marketplace. However, that 3% of online video traffic currently drives about 40% of total traffic within the broadband network. It is a huge gearing effect. And if we wind the clock forward and follow the trends forward about three years out to, say, about 2014, the video bandwidth on our broadband networks on its own will be bigger than the entire broadband marketplace today. So this is the kind of scale of issue that we are looking at as we see the uptake of online video specifically. I just came back from the Streaming Media Conference in New York, where we heard that Netflix, very similar set of statistics, is now commanding on its own about 20% of broadband traffic across the US. But the number of concurrent users, i.e. the number of users using that service at the same time in the peak hour, represents less than 1% of the broadband base in the US. So the issue here is what happens when this stuff becomes mainstream. And the issue is all about sustainable economics, and that's what Content Connect is designed to solve. So moving more pertinently into digital service provision and locker-based ecosystems, one of the key things about locker-based ecosystems, as Tim has just eloquently described, is that it changes the consumption model from just download to a high element of streaming. In fact, as Tim described, the lowest friction route for consumers to enjoy the ultraviolet experience is through the streaming service. And it's a very, very different challenge from streaming a few 2-minute YouTube clips to streaming a DVD quality or Blu-ray quality sustainably for 2 hours during a movie and giving users the user experience that they want. So one part of that is managing how that's embedded within the broadband fabric. The other part of that is what this slide is describing, which is the opportunity we see to create a set of digital services that support locker-based ecosystems such as ultraviolet. And a number of these capabilities, as I touched on earlier, we already have in place, particularly at the content management end. We have those origin server and content delivery, Content Connect in the green in the middle. And we've been doing a lot of work recently over the client technologies side. We're in the midst of developing the entitlement and publishing elements of that, which would manage the user entitlements, the DRM, the multi-DRM platform, and support the rights locker capability. The key thing that we're looking at doing here is trying to remove the barriers to entry, remove the friction in the marketplace. So the key thing about this model is the phrase up there, cloud service. So what that means in simple terms is this is offered as a utility service. It's offered as a pay-as-you-go service. So typically when retailers are coming to the market in the download-to-own market to date, they've had to spend $500,000, $1 million just encoding the catalog before they've even got started. And then they'd have to spend several million more dollars building some kind of a platform to service, to create these kind of digital services. Larger retailers and retailers with other adjacent businesses have found that's possible, but our view is that's one of the reasons why the market is so constrained at the minute, and part of our objective is to remove that friction and let the full rich diversity of the retail innovation play in this marketplace. However, we see a number of issues that make one scratch one's head a little bit about this marketplace. So firstly, perhaps going down to the bottom left there, if we look at online movie consumption specifically as a subset of the online TV or online video marketplace, digital, i.e. online, represents by value in the order of 1% of the marketplace. It's very, very small. And I think Tim alluded to download to own specifically being subscale. That number includes rental, as well as rental and other models, as well as download to own. I think the more worrying thing is that the growth is not exactly stellar. In fact, Blu-ray adoption is growing faster than digital at the moment. And if I look over at the graph down at the bottom right, I think the other thing that causes us concern is that these are Screen Digest numbers, but I've seen similar numbers from other analysts that indicate that it is growth and adoption is largely driven by device-based ecosystems, which is fancy language for saying it's kind of Apple, Microsoft, and Sony that are really driving volume in this space. So the device-agnostic open market that Tim alluded to appears to be that little white block at the top, which from a service provision would probably generate about as much revenue to pay for the mineral water on the table at this conference. It's very, very small. So I think one of the key things as an industry we need to ask is how are we going to stimulate that growth? Now, one of the silver linings on the cloud is in that top right graph, which is, and again, this was from the British Video Association published this, but I've seen similar outputs from other analysts, is that around half of people who consume digital today, one of the reasons that they do that is portability. And I must say I'm quite surprised because portability is quite hard to achieve in today's marketplace, but portability is the key thing that locker-based ecosystems enables. So the big question that we're asking is, will locker-based ecosystems be the catalyst for growth? So that's one issue. I think the other issue is to do with industry structure. So from our perspective, to see a healthy, growing, ubiquitous mass marketplace implies for us fragmentation and diversity in the retail side to drive choice and drive innovation. On the right-hand side is kind of the scenario that is predicted by most analysts at the minute, which is a consolidated and constrained marketplace focused around perhaps 3 or 4 large global brands, most likely device-based ecosystems. And if that is the case, we think the market will be smaller, less interesting for all stakeholders, less interesting for the studios, less interesting for the retailers on the right that have been consolidated out because the remaining marketplace is too small, and more importantly, most importantly, less interesting for consumers who will lack the diversity of choice in a fragmented marketplace. And so, just to summarize those points, our view is that a do-nothing approach is likely to see the online marketplace dominated by a small number of global brands, and I think we'll see a marketplace that starts to look very much like the digital marketplace in music, which is not necessarily where most of the people in this room, I guess, want to go. We hope and we believe that locker-based business models will act as a catalyst for the take-up of digital. However, it may be that subscription VOD, and again, if we look at what's happening in the US around models like Netflix, that subscription VOD may be a more compelling consumer proposition. We think it's absolutely critical that a broad and diverse base of retailers promoting locker-based systems is key, and that requires investment by the retail sector in locker-based models. And just to return to my theme from the first slide, we see the broadband video distribution platform as a key enabler to driving sustainable economics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Simon.